Well, hello everyone. This is Ron. I'm back at you with another episode of Empire Coins and Collectibles. So the question really is today, when is a nickel not a nickel? And I know you've seen those YouTube videos talking about this sort of thing. And they'll show you this nickel with that error and that nickel with this error. Well, I have a few of those, but that may not necessarily be what we're speaking of right now. So before we get into it, if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. All right. Having put that aside and out of the way, let's get to it. So when is a nickel not a nickel? Well, the easy answer to that is when a nickel is worth more than 5 cents. That's a real critical point to make. And I'm going to share my desk camera with you. I'll turn the overhead light on and let you take a look to see when a nickel is worth more than a nickel. So let me see if I can do that. Change cameras. There they are. Let me get these over here so you can see them a little better, and I'll turn the overhead light on. Hopefully that doesn't wash them out too much. Let's see if I can get them to stand up a little bit better, more boldly there. Well, I guess I'm going to have to pick it up. So here is a nickel, and you can see that it's a little bit bigger than a normal nickel. As a matter of fact, hang on just a second. I'm going to get one to show it to you here. So I'm going to show it to you and compare it in size with this nickel. So this is a regular size nickel, and this is a broad struck nickel. And you can see between the two, the top one that's been certified MS65, very pleased with that certification, is bigger. You know, it's not much, but there are some examples where it's dramatically bigger. But certainly it has a bigger diameter. And you can tell that by comparison. Maybe if I put them side by side, you can see it a little bit better. But yeah, this nickel is bigger than that nickel, and it's a broad struck nickel. And it pretty much means that the collar got misplaced or misaligned or something, and there was nothing to retain or to hold the metal as it flowed outward due to the pressing of the coin. There was nothing to restrain it, and so it grew larger, basically. So is that more expensive than 5 cents? Well, let's just share my screen and see if we can find something that we can get to. I guess, let's come in here. Yes, so here is one. It's not the same year. This is a 1989 that I'm holding in my hand, but this one is sold. It's green, $79. It's sold, and it is a 89, is it? Whoops, let me scroll down. It's a 99, and you can see that that is larger than a normal nickel, and it's sold for $79. So certainly that's one reason a nickel may be worth more than a nickel. So let's go ahead and stop the share. And in this particular case, this nickel is, let me see if I get it to focus. There it is. So this is a 1968D 5-cent die crack. And I've shown both of these nickels in previous episodes, so I'm not retreading old material. There's a point to all this. So this obviously is going to be worth more than 5 cents since it's a 1968D 5-cent die crack MS65 uncirculated condition. But there's something more to all this, and I'll put these back here in the background so we can just keep an eye on them. We have this plain nickel I showed earlier. And the interesting thing about this is the mint had to order the planchets. The planchets are pre-made. They come in and it's put into the press. It's processed, pre-polished, put in the mint, into the press, and then minted into a 5-cent piece. US currency, 1 nickel. So if you go to spend this, you will have 5 cents to spend. And when I was growing up, I was about to say, I'm showing my age, I was about to say in the good old days, you could buy a candy bar with 5 cents, right? But not much today. However, this nickel is fairly deceiving. What if I were to say to you that you might get 20% return on a nickel? Now, is that a pretty good ROI, return on investment? 20%? I would say so. Well, how is that? Well, it's simple. This nickel weighs 5 grams. 5 grams. Actually, that's a misnomer. It has a mass of 5 grams. And it just so happens we equate that with weight, which is not really the same, but it's 5 grams. And in that 5 grams, it consists of part copper and part nickel. So it's 75% copper and 25% nickel. That means that a 5-cent nickel in the US currency is 3.75 grams of copper and 1.25 grams of nickel. Now, why am I sharing all that with you? I'll see if I can get this back into focus rather than you look at something that is, well, let me just go back to the main camera. So why am I sharing that with you? Well, there's a very good reason. It's called Graham's law. Now, what is Graham's law? Basically, Graham's law simply says this: bad money drives good money out. Okay, I know that's not very diagnostic, is it? Yeah, you say, well, what does that mean? Is that like a bad investment drives good investments out? It's not the same thing we're talking about. Let me give you the complete definition or verbiage on Graham's law. If coins containing metal of different values have the same monetary value, that means legal tender, the coins composed of the cheaper metal will be used for payment, while those made of the more expensive metal will be hoarded or exported and subsequently disappear from circulation. So my question to you then is simply this: do you see any silver coins in circulation? Silver halves, silver quarters, silver dimes? You go on YouTube quite a bit to watch some of the personalities do coin roll searches in hopes of finding silver, because silver, like a dime, can be sold 20 times face. It's no longer a dime. It's like $2 or $2.50, depending on what the spot price of silver is. There's more silver value in it than using it as a dime. There is more copper and nickel value in this nickel than 5 cents worth of monetary value. Does that make sense? Sure, it does. And part of that definition says that the bad money will chase the good money out. The cheaper metal coin of the same monetary value as the more expensive metal coin, that will be used for payment, and the more expensive metal will be hoarded and exported or exported. Now, what does it mean to be hoarding? Well, okay, I'm a hoarder. I have my collections, and my collections include the more expensive metal that I've chased and pulled out of circulation and bought from others to create my stock book. Well, that's the wrong one. That was the nickel one. We'll go back to that in just a moment. So, I mean, these are Roosevelt dimes, and all these Roosevelt dimes, although I haven't annotated them, they're all silver dimes. And they start from, the 50s going into the 60s. 64 is the last silver dime. So obviously this book, of course, is filled with silver dimes. You don't see a whole lot of silver dimes out in circulation because Ron's out there looking for them. And so is Rob Fine's Treasure and the Silver Hound, Blue Ridge Silver Hound, and so forth. All those guys out there are chasing the more expensive metal and pulling it out of circulation. What about the export? Well, those people that were from other countries realized that they could buy up all the silver coins in the US circulation and pay for it with the cheaper metal or even paper. And then that would be worth a lot more money than just the monetary face value of the silver dimes, silver quarters, and silver half dollars. But we also have the silver war eagles, silver war eagles, the silver nickels. Sometimes I get ahead of myself,
Sorry,
and sometimes
I couldn't quite hear you. Could you please repeat what you said?
Siri is trying to interfere with my current episode. So you guys, I apologize for that. Siri, this is not about you. So so Ron has been out there pulling silver nickels out, buying silver nickels and putting sets together. And these things are 35% silver. These nickels made during World War II. So whether it's quarters, halves, dimes, they're being searched for and pulled out. So in essence, what are we replacing them with? We're replacing them with the copper coins, the copper nickel coins, etc. Because it's a much less expensive metal. Bad money chases good money out of circulation. And that's exactly what we're talking about. So getting back to why this little nickel here may be one of the next candidates to be chased out of circulation. It is 75% copper and 25% nickel. That means that there is about 6.2 cents of intrinsic metal value in this nickel. You go out and buy a nickel for 5 cents, you have 6.2 cents of value. And you'll find now that people are hoarding nickels because they believe at some point the U.S. government, and Congress is out looking at laws and ways to change the metal content of our currency. They're going to find some type of cheaper metal to replace the copper and the nickel in the nickel so that it'll be cheaper to make. In other words, the government is losing money. It has a negative seigniorage. I think that's the right word. It has a negative value, and it's costing the government money to produce a nickel. Actually, you can say it's costing them 1.2 cents over the monetary value of a nickel to make it. Now, that's just the intrinsic value of the metal that goes into the nickel. We're not talking about the other things that goes into making a nickel. We're not talking about the labor. We're not talking about the capital equipment and the maintenance of that capital equipment, like the presses. And we're not talking about making the planchets. However, I will say that all of those that I previously mentioned, they can be large sums of money. But when you, if you will, amortize them off of hundreds of millions, if not billions of pennies and nickels and so forth, the value to make each individual penny or each individual nickel is negligible compared to the metal content. All right, my friends, I hope this has been interesting. It's always interesting to me to know something more about the money that we use, and it gives me another view on either collecting it to add to my overall personal collection, or maybe with an eye that at some point it's going to be taken right out of circulation because it's too expensive to be made. And I think we're almost there with a nickel being worth 6.2 cents. You take care, my friends. Be careful out there. And of course, as always, good hunting.